Thank you for attending the SRNA 2021 Annual Meeting. Here are some instructions to help you during this event. At various points throughout the meeting, you will be given the opportunity to turn on your microphone and join the conversation. To verify your audio settings before the meeting, click on the small arrow located next to the audio settings button. In this area, you will be able to adjust and run a test to ensure you have the correct microphone and speakers selected. When prompted by the presenters, you may signify that you would like to interact in the meeting. To do so, please proceed to the lower part of the screen and click the Raise Hand button. Once the button has been pressed, it will remain in that state until the host lowers it for you. Once you've been authorized by the host to engage with presenters, you will be given permission to turn on your microphone. You will be presented with a pop-up box signifying that the host would like you to unmute. To proceed with turning on your microphone, click the Unmute button. When you are done speaking, you may mute yourself by clicking the mute button in the lower left-hand corner. If you are a voting member and have joined using the Zoom platform, you will have the ability to vote at various stages throughout the meeting. Once the presenter has announced that the voting will take place, you will automatically receive a pop-up window that requests you to vote on the current topic. To do so, click the option you would like to vote for and then click Submit.
Tanti, Anim, Atlante, Ahau, good morning. Bonjour à tous le monde et bienvenue à notre Assemblée Générale. I would like to open this afternoon by acknowledging those of us that are on Treaty 4 territory and the homeland of the Métis, and recognize our members and others on this call on Treaty 2, 4, 5, 6, and 10. I acknowledge the strength, resilience, and capacity of all First Nations people and remind us that we are all treaty people. The SRNA will also acknowledge that today is National Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women Awareness Day. My name is Warren Cook, and as your president, I am honored to open the 104th annual meeting of the Saskatchewan Registered Nurses Association. And with mixed emotion, I must acknowledge that this is the final annual meeting that we will have operating under this name and my final annual meeting as the president of the SRNA Council. In the fall, we will be transitioning to the College of Registered Nurses of Saskatchewan to reflect our focus on the single mandate of regulatory excellence. On behalf of council and staff, we welcome you and thank each of you for taking the time to be here and to remain involved in your regulatory body. We acknowledge that it continues to be a challenging time for all of us, especially in the healthcare community. We appreciate your time and thank you again for joining us today. As I acknowledged, this will be my final meeting as your chair. At the end of today's meeting, I will be turning over the presidency to the incoming president, Françoise Frankie Verville, nurse practitioner. Now, I ask that you please join me in welcoming Council Elder Jeanne Sutherland, who will start us off with an opening prayer.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I guess it is also with mixed emotions that I will do my prayer today. It's both an exciting day for new members and for some of the members that will be leaving this beautiful organization that I've been involved with. The only thing I shall ask of all participants, I guess, you'll be voting today. Follow your heart and do it with a clear mind. I have been saying that to the council for all the meetings that I've been, and you have all been so wonderful. From the bottom of my heart, I thank each and every one of you for all the hard work that you do for this organization. I know it's a learning process for everyone with this reconciliation, but you know what? We've come a long way. I know I'm satisfied to where it's at right now. So with that, I shall say my prayer in my language, which is Cree. I ask all of you to join me in your own way. Each day that I open my eyes, I thank the Creator for giving me another day. So I ask all of you to do the same, especially in this trying time, where we're all trying hard to keep our families safe. I know mine are going a little bit too far on me, and I'm kept in here. I miss seeing my family, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren. The one family of my great-grandkids I haven't seen since pandemic started. So those kids have grown, I'm sure. So they're not going to know who I am, which is sad. How I'd love to hug and kiss them. So with that, join me in prayer in thanking the Creator for giving us all another day. And I thank the organization for your tobacco. It's an honor to get it, to be asked to say the prayer. And we shall also ask for the safety of everyone, especially children. Hangananas komunikan sistema o ikimiko yan paksim gawian tan hestamo pikuke maski kiusko maski kiwino katiskagwa ananas komuyan kakio kakaskita tokapia kiksepa kutakisikaw emikosia awen tataman tamiukiskan sikokanos kamamok hawmis apito everyone harakok tagakutakak mine iwi na ikumatuskeon ay mani mustahin mamon tawi mam ananas komuyan kaysa toskets kehoa patsitats kenak tokat kwakok aw kan tataman tehoa mam tanich kanwa nos katota patsitats Kakuanan manos nanas komun mamong tawi mam. Katawanos tiskaw tispait. Kakuanan mananas komun ahaw.
Thank you, Elder Jeanne. Elder Jeanne will be with us throughout the meeting and will also send us off at the end of the meeting with a prayer. I also want to acknowledge that this will be Elder Jeanne's final annual meeting with the SRNA, as she will be retiring as our elder in August. On behalf of council, I would like to acknowledge and thank Elder Jeanne for her profound wisdom and guidance that she has provided us throughout her 4 years as the elder for the SRNA Council. I now call the 104th meeting of the Saskatchewan Registered Nurses Association to order. This is our second virtual annual meeting. And given the situation in our province, in our country, and throughout the world, we hope that using this platform will allow more nurses to join us from where you are so you can remain in your communities and actively manage the response to COVID-19 in those communities. This meeting will be video recorded to ensure the accuracy of the meeting record. We will provide this recording to our court reporter so she can capture the proceedings of this meeting in writing. I believe at this point, most of us are accustomed to using Zoom, which is the platform for this meeting. However, if you experience any technical difficulties during this meeting, you can call our technical support at 306-359-4206 or email agm2021@srna.org. Once we conclude the SRNA annual meeting, for those of you who are interested, please stay on so you can hear an update from the Saskatchewan Nurses Association. At that time, we will adjourn the annual meeting and then hand the meeting over to the association's interim director, Maureen Klenk. SRNA council members are virtually joining us today. It is important for your council to be visible and accessible to you. Connecting with our members is important to council. Their contact information is provided on the SRNA website. I encourage you to reach out to them at any time. I will now ask the SRNA council members to virtually introduce themselves. I will call on them one by one and ask them to introduce themselves. Frankie Verville.
Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Frankie Verville. I am the president-elect, a nurse practitioner, and I live in Regina.
Fred Enns.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Fred. I am an RN living in Saskatoon. I've been an RN for 3 years, and I have served on SRNA Council for a 1-year appointment. I work as a point of care nurse in Saskatoon on a few different wards, and I love my work. I love that we get to reach into all corners of Saskatchewan today, and I look forward to hearing from you all.
Betty Metzler.
Welcome, everyone. I am Betty Metzler, a registered nurse. I work casual in Yorkton, and I'm now living in Milestone. This is my 6th year on council.
Rhonda Zinger.
Good afternoon. My name is Rhonda Zinger. I'm a registered nurse. I live and work in Lloydminster as a manager of primary health. Thank you all for joining us today.
Marilyn Barlow.
Hi there, my name is Marilyn Barlow, and I am a registered nurse, member at large for Saskatoon area, and this is my 4th and final year on council.
Leah Thorpe.
Hello and welcome. My name is Leah Thorpe, registered nurse and member at large for Region 5. I am currently living in Regina and manager of maternal and children's clinical integration.
Kathy Shabbat.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Kathleen Shabbat. I'm a registered nurse and clinical nurse educator. I'm a member at large, and I'm finishing my 1st year of a 3-year term. Thank you.
Moni Snell.
Hello, everyone. I'm Moni Snell. I'm a neonatal nurse practitioner. I work in the NICU here in Regina. I was filling a vacancy in the advanced practice nurse area on council this past year, and it was my honor to serve our membership and learn a lot. Thank you.
Joanna Alexander.
Good afternoon. I'm Jeanne Alexander, and I live in Regina. I'm the public rep on council, and I'm completing my 2nd term, and I am a retired teacher. Thank you.
Doug Finney.
Hello, everyone. I'm Doug Finney, and I live in Saskatoon. I'm a public representative, and I'm completing my 3rd year on council.
James Struthers.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jamie Struthers. I live in Regina, and I am completing my 6th year on council as a public representative.
I am Warren Cook, and I am your president for a few more hours. I live and practice in La Ronge in the ER and acute care settings. I am a registered nurse. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is your SRNA Council. Members who registered for this meeting will have received an email that includes the agenda along with links to documents that will be referenced throughout the meeting. They are also posted on our website, www.srna.org, for easy access. Also included are links to the 2020 SRNA Annual Meeting minutes and the 2020 SRNA Annual Report. I'd now like to introduce and welcome our parliamentarian for today, Mayor Lee Rasmussen, QC. Mayor Lee has been engaged in the private practice of law since 1988, most recently with the firm of Rasmussen and Company, legal professional corporation, after spending almost 15 years with the Saskatchewan legislature at the beginning of her legal career. Her practice is concentrated primarily in the area of administrative law, and in particular on the legal issues faced by self-regulating professions, municipalities, and statutory boards. She has a strong background in constitutional law and Aboriginal law. Mayor Lee's practice also includes consulting services with respect to parliamentary procedure, drafting and interpreting statutes, regulations, rules and bylaws, and research and location of statutes and delegated legislation. Thank you, Mayor Lee, for joining us today as our parliamentarian. I will now reiterate our voting procedures today, specifically how motions will be moved forward and how we will vote. Please note, only SRNA voting members are on the Zoom platform. All voting members are validated prior to being provided with their personalized link to join this meeting. This authentication step allows voting members to have access to our voting platform. For non-voting members, you should be watching us through our YouTube channel and you will not have voting capabilities. I want to ensure that everyone knows how we will manage voting and debating agenda items. This is your meeting. So when we reference the floor, that is all of the online eligible voters. Now I will go over some quick instructions. All members are automatically muted, so you will not be able to speak unless you indicate you want to by raising your hand. You will typically find the hand icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen. All moving and seconding discussion will take place by raising your hand. We will select those in the order in which they raise their hand. We will then request you to unmute and ask you to speak. We will not be giving you access to your camera for ease and simplicity's sake. Once a motion has been moved and seconded, our technical support will lower all remaining hands. If you determine a point of order is required, please raise your hand again and we will call on you. So when I call for a motion or a seconder, please raise your hand. The moderator will request the mover or seconder to unmute in the order in which your hand is raised. At that time, please state your name, your designation, and where you are joining us from. When I call for discussion, once again, please raise your hand if you would like to speak. The moderator will request that you unmute in the order of which hands are raised and will give you permission to speak. So please be sure to unmute your audio by selecting the microphone that is typically located on the bottom of the screen. You may also need to allow access of your microphone, so please watch for any pop-ups asking you to grant this permission. Once again, you are asked to state your full name, designation, and residence, and you will have a designated time to speak. When I call for a vote, the voting window will pop up on your screen along with a countdown timer. You will have 30 seconds to vote. Select either for, in favor, or against, not in favor, of the vote, or indicate that you are abstaining from the vote. The majority is 50% plus 1. We are now going to trial a test vote. The question is, do you agree the North Pole is cold? I will now call for the vote. The pop-up window will display the choices either for or against or abstain. Click your choice on the voting button now.
We are now going through the voting period. You have 30 seconds to vote. Start voting now. Thank you. Voting has ended.
The results are in. Do you agree that the North Pole is cold? For 91%, against 6%. The motion has been passed. There is one abstention. On all motions, including bylaws, the initial speaker will be limited to 3 minutes and each subsequent speaker is limited to 2 minutes. There will be a countdown timer on your screen. Once that time is up, our tech support will turn your microphone off. If you would like to abstain on any of the votes today and would like it acknowledged in the record of the meeting, please select abstain. When you vote, and then after announcing the results of the vote, I will ask you to raise your hand if you would like this in the record of the meeting. We now have a motion for adoption of the rules and procedures for this annual meeting.
I would like to make a motion to adopt the rules and procedures for this meeting. I will read the motion and you will be able to see it on the screen. Whereas Section 5(1) of Bylaw 3 of the SRNA bylaws provides that the rules and procedures of the association will be in accordance with the most recent edition of Procedures for Meetings and Organizations by Kerr and King, and whereas the most recent edition of Procedures for Meetings and Organizations is the 3rd edition, published in 1996, and makes no provision for holding meetings virtually, and whereas it is necessary because of the public health orders issued to address the COVID-19 pandemic that the association's 2021 annual meeting be held virtually, and whereas Section 5(2) of Bylaw 3 of the SRNA's bylaws provides that the rules and procedures may be suspended or amended at any annual meeting by a 2/3 majority vote of the practicing members at the annual meeting. Therefore, be it resolved that the rules and procedures of the association be amended as described in the document titled Rules and Procedures for Virtual Annual Meetings of the Saskatchewan Registered Nurses Association, dated April 14th, 2021, as posted on the association's website.
Please raise your hand if you would like to second the motion.
Robin Evans, registered nurse, Regina. I so move.
Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
Thank you. It is necessary to adjust the rules of order for the SRNA annual meeting to reflect the fact that this meeting is being held virtually. It is, of course, necessary to hold this meeting virtually due to the public health orders in response to the global pandemic we are currently experiencing. The newly proposed rules of order are attached to the agenda for this meeting for viewing.
If you would like to discuss this motion, please raise your hand and our tech support will request you to turn on your microphone. We do have some people with their hands raised.
Joanne Peterson.
Thank you. Joanne Peterson, registered nurse, Moose Jaw. We don't know who actually moved that motion. The mover did not state who they were, so we don't know who moved it. I just want that clarified, please.
Okay, I do apologize that we will get the mover who was Frankie. We'll get the mover to state that again. I do apologize about that.
Frankie Verville, NP, Regina, moved.
Further discussion?
It's Robin Evans, Regina, registered nurse. I second the motion. Sorry.
Any further discussion? Just looking to see our moderator. No further discussion. Okay. Okay, I'll now call for the vote. Those in favor, please select for. Those opposed, please select against. You have 30 seconds to vote.
We're now going through the voting period. You have 30 seconds to vote. Start voting now. Thank you. Voting has ended.
The results are in. 99% favor, 1% against. Motion carried. Thank you. Krista Lynn Farthing, RN, has been appointed as Chief Scrutineer for this annual meeting. She was in attendance for the counting and validation of the votes for council elections, which took place just afternoon prior to this meeting. We will now move on to the credentials report. All practicing members of the SRNA are entitled to one vote on motions and bylaws presented at this meeting. We have 215 voting members logged into the annual meeting and eligible to vote. We have 28 observers currently viewing the event. And now we are ready to move on to the business of the day. The SRNA is the profession-led regulatory body for the province's almost 12,000 practicing registered nurses, including 285 nurse practitioners and 110 RNs with additional authorized practice. The Registered Nurse Act 1988 describes the SRNA's mandate in setting standards of education and practice to ensure better health for all through nursing regulation, professional practice, and collaboration. The SRNA is also responsible for ensuring that there are transparent and fair continuing competence and competence assurance processes. At this time, I want to review the purpose of the annual meeting, which is to 1, be accountable to our members and the public at both the governance and operational levels. 2, discuss and vote on the bylaws. 3, elect the registered nurse members of council and the nominations committee. In regards to resolutions, they may be submitted to council at any time. All resolutions are examined by council and will be addressed at the following council meeting. Any resolutions to be addressed at this year's June meeting will need to be submitted by May 25th. At this time, we need a motion to approve the agenda that you have been provided electronically and as presented on the screen. Please raise your hand if you would like to move the motion.
Lynn Eichel, Saskatoon. I would make the motion to approve the agenda.
And sorry, just to be formal, could you please state your designation as well, Lynn?
Saskatoon.
And read the motion that we got on the screen there.
Motion that the agenda for the 2021 annual meeting be approved as presented.
Thank you. Please raise your hand if you would like to second the motion.
Lisa Bolton, registered nurse, Saskatoon. I will second the motion, please.
Thank you. Discussion?
If you wish to speak, please raise your hand and we will create a speakers list and we'll call upon you in the order of those who have asked to speak.
Seeing no discussion, I will now call for the vote. Those in favor, please select for. Those opposed, please select against. You have 30 seconds to cast your vote.
We are now going through the voting period. You have 30 seconds to cast your vote. Start voting now. Thank you. Voting has ended.
And the results are in. For 99%, against 0%, and 1 abstention. Does the person that has abstained want to be recorded in the minutes? Please raise your hand if you would like to be recorded in the minutes as abstaining. No? Okay. Excellent. Motion carried. Copies of the minutes of the 2020 annual meeting, which have been approved by council, have been provided to you as well for your reference. If you would like any part of the minutes to be read, please indicate so by raising your hand, and we will give you permission to access your microphone. As you may or may not, oh, sorry, give a moment. Okay, sorry. Whiz by. No, we do have them. Okay, we're good?
Yeah.
Okay. As you may or may not know, the SRNA has given the CNAR notice that we will no longer be a jurisdictional member as of December 31st, 2022. This is a result of our move to the single mandate of regulation. However, we will remain a member until that time. So now we will play you a pre-recorded message from CNA President Tim Guest with his greetings to you.
Hello. It is a privilege to have the opportunity to provide you with virtual greetings on behalf of CNA. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that the meeting today is taking place across Turtle Island, the sacred land for which thousands of years has been and continues to be home to many Indigenous peoples, with whom we are honored to work in relationship. I'm speaking to you today myself from Mi'kmaq, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq. Thank you to SRNA for inviting me to speak today, and thank you to all of you, the nurses of Saskatchewan, for everything you have done to protect your communities from COVID-19. It is unfortunate that the pandemic continues to prevent us from gathering face-to-face. However, I feel fortunate for the many ways we have all learned to adapt in these unprecedented times. 2021 is a very exciting year for CNA because the association is in a period of transformation. This has been brought on by both changes to nursing regulation across the country and changes within CNA itself. Since its inception, CNA has had a jurisdictional membership model where membership at CNA was automatic if a nurse was a member in their jurisdiction. However, due to recent changes in nursing regulation and other decisions on membership structures across the country, this is no longer the case. Ontario, Prince Edward Island, and British Columbia have joined Ontario and Quebec and are no longer jurisdictional CNA members. Alberta and yourselves in Saskatchewan have announced that you will be leaving in the coming years. Additionally, as many of you know, in 2018, CNA made the historic decision to open membership to all classes of regulated nursing. It is vital that CNA adapts with the times and continues to be a stable and sustainable organization that responds to the needs of members and welcomes all categories of nurses. As a result of both changes, CNA's Governance and Leadership Committee took on extensive work to examine the existing governance and membership structures. We held a series of cross-country consultations with current and future members to determine how best to meet your needs. It was determined that for CNA to remain relevant, effective, and sustainable, amendments would need to be made to the bylaws. Our board of directors have proposed several changes that, if passed at the June annual meeting of members, will change the membership structures and the composition of our board. The current membership model, which includes 4 classes of members, all of which are organizations or groups, will transform to include only 1 class of individual members. Switching to an individual membership model will empower the individual nursing voice within CNA. Every individual member, including licensed or registered practical nurses, registered psychiatric nurses, registered nurses, nurse practitioners, nursing students, and retired nurses would carry a vote as a CNA member. To ensure the CNA board reflects the composition of the nursing workforce, we are also proposing it be restructured from a jurisdictional model to a skills-based model. This will ensure the board has people with the necessary skills and diversity to make a successful organization. CNA has been providing nursing leadership for over 110 years, and I'm confident these changes will only strengthen us. Together, we can help CNA transform into a stronger organization that will help us unify the profession and carry us through the next 100 years of nursing leadership. While this change may impact how we are linked, it will not change the desire for a continued, connected, and strong professional nursing voice collaboration between nurses in Saskatchewan and CNA. Thank you again, and I wish you well for the remainder of your meeting.
It is now time for me to present to you my President's report. It is with great pleasure that I bring you this year's President report. Yet again, we find ourselves gathered in a way predominantly unfamiliar to us prior to 2020. As we reflect on how our world has changed over the last year, we acknowledge those who have played a role in serving and protecting our communities by continuing to provide essential services and ensuring the health and safety of those around us. When this journey into a world where COVID-19 exists began last March, we had no idea where it would take us. We didn't know that as healthcare professionals, we would still be walking through the doors directly on the front line of the fight against the virus 14 months later. We didn't know the sacrifices it would continue to ask of all of us or the burden it would place on so many. As we began actively fighting COVID-19 in 2020, the year of the nurse and the midwife, I knew I was exactly where I needed to be, working to serve and care for the people of Saskatchewan. I celebrated our profession by reminding myself why I chose this path to begin with and why I continue to do so every day. I am here for the residents of Saskatchewan through this pandemic, and after it has passed, like all of you, I will continue to answer the call. Similar to last year, our channel of delivering this year's annual meeting differs from the past, but SRNA remains committed to ensuring our members are informed about the work of your regulator. We have all come together today to celebrate the wins we've accomplished over the past year, acknowledge and review the challenges we've faced, and embrace the potential we have for future opportunities. We have the privilege to lead our profession and the ability to take action on the issues that are directly impacting our practice, and most importantly, our patients, clients, and residents. We have the ability to enact change, to develop and progress the profession. Throughout 2020, the SRNA Council spent much of their time taking the necessary first steps towards the transition to a single mandate organization after the council decision was made in late 2019. We had originally planned to make this transition in May of 2020 at the annual SRNA conference, but given the outbreak of COVID-19, this plan was postponed. Fortunately, we were able to shift our delivery of the conference to a virtual platform to offer the event in September, October. I had the privilege of co-hosting our final awards of excellence, as well as various conference sessions with presenters from across the country who shared their knowledge and experience with us. It was at this time that we began the transition to a single mandate with the open discussion sessions that provided you, our members, the opportunity to voice your thoughts and questions around the various aspects of this transition. During this virtual event, we also had multiple members raise their hands to be the champions of the Grassroots Association. We remain committed to having important conversations to ensure that we are in the best position to continue through this monumental transition and to meet and listen to key partners from within the nursing profession and within the Saskatchewan healthcare system as we move forward. Throughout the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, we have and will continue to do our part to highlight the importance of your safety and well-being. During our November council meeting, we invited Max Hendricks, Deputy Minister, and Mary Martin Smith, Chief Nursing Officer from the Ministry of Health, and Sharon Garrett, Vice President of Integrated Urban Health and Chief Nursing Officer from the Saskatchewan Health Authority to join us. Being at the table with other health partners allowed for open discussion, specifically surrounding the COVID-19 pandemic. We discussed the challenges that have been faced, the projections of what was to come, and the time and effort poured into planning for fluctuations in numbers to keep both healthcare workers and the public safe. In closing, I wanted to say that serving as your SRNA president has been an incredibly fulfilling and challenging journey. I'm honored to have received your support and trust to fill this leadership position and to have the privilege to serve the profession of registered nursing in Saskatchewan. I look forward to seeing what the future holds for this organization and the new Grassroots Association. As articulated by this year's National Nursing Week theme, thank you for all continuing to answer the call. I wish you all happiness and healthiness. We will now move into the Executive Director's report.
Thanks, Warren. Good afternoon, everyone. It brings me great pleasure to be able to connect with you and share the activities of your regulatory body over this past year. We've now surpassed a year of battling the COVID-19 virus. As nurses, we continue to be tasked with shifting how we work, serve, and care for our clients, our families, and ourselves. This past year has changed so much of what we know and how we've worked for so long. Our profession has pivoted on all fronts. As we represent the largest healthcare profession in Saskatchewan and across Canada, nurses have always played a vital role in providing health services, but now more than ever. Regardless of our domain, we've been impacted by this global pandemic. Some of us have been able to move and adapt to work from a home situation or working in an office environment with social distancing in place. Many nurses in education are teaching key nursing concepts virtually and continuously working within new and ongoing restrictions to provide our nursing students with the opportunities to complete their clinical experiences and their nursing education program. And of course, we have those of you who are facing the pandemic in person each day. The SRNA recognizes the immense pressure you have been facing and are grateful for the important role you continue to play on the front lines of this global health crisis. We are thinking about you and continue to work with healthcare partners within the province to provide you with the support you need and to address any concerns that you may have. As the COVID-19 pandemic progresses and variants of concern become more prevalent, the health and safety of our healthcare professionals continues to be of high importance. As always, our practice advisors are dedicated to answering questions from nurses to ensure competence and safety, and are always available to answer questions about nursing practice from the public and employers. We want you to know that we are prioritizing our efforts to ensure as many nurses as possible are available to deliver the care needed while keeping you, your clients, and your colleagues safe. The last year offered many opportunities and challenges for the SRNA and registered nursing in Saskatchewan. Key developments in 2020 included: we worked closely with industry partners in Saskatchewan to monitor the developments of the COVID-19 virus in order to provide updates and support our membership, including emergency practicing membership, to allow for a quick response when the emergency situation was declared throughout the province. The official transition to a single mandate organization began at the SRNA Annual Conference in the fall, with a new Grassroots Association forming immediately following the conference. We will continue to support the new association until they are fully established. And today, after the meeting, you'll have an opportunity to learn more from them. We held our final SRNA Annual Conference and Awards of Excellence as the Saskatchewan Registered Nurses Association. Though it was held virtually and in a different capacity than anticipated, it still was a tremendous celebration of those in our profession. We published our first issue of The Pulse. It's a printed and online magazine from the SRNA that beautifully captures the stories of generations of nurses within Saskatchewan. The RN Specialty Practices, or RNSP guideline, was approved by SRNA Council in June and replaced the standards and competencies for RN Specialty Practice of 2018. RN Specialty Practices continue to be a primary focus for us in the upcoming months. New documents focusing primarily on the support of RNs to optimize their practice in the interest of the public were created and include the guideline for prescribing medication and the guideline for RNs recommending and administering non-prescription drugs. Revisions were also made to 2 additional documents, Graduate Nurse Practice Guideline and the 24-hour RN coverage in special care homes. And the authority for approving entry-level nursing programs in Saskatchewan was delegated to the SRNA Nursing Education Program Approval Committee, or NEPAC, and the new validated program approval process was used for the first time for both annual and comprehensive reviews. All of this work would not be possible without a group of dedicated individuals. I begin by thanking SRNA Council. I'm honored to serve you in this position. Thanks to the leadership team, a trio of dynamic leaders who I'm blessed to work with each day, and they are Cheryl Hamilton, Registrar and Director of Regulatory Services, Tanya Blakely, Director of Communications and Public Relations, and Terry Belcourt, Director of Nursing Practice. Thanks, of course, to Julie Zabo, Executive Assistant Extraordinaire, and of course, thanks to all the SRNA staff who individually and collectively contribute to fulfilling the organization's mandate and goals. And finally, I thank the endless list of volunteer registered nurses and nurse practitioners and members of the public on our committees who work diligently to ensure the SRNA is a leader in registered nursing regulation and can effectively protect the public. So as you are aware, the SRNA worked with the Professional Standards Authority, or PSA, to review our investigations and discipline processes to assess our performance against the standards of good regulation. Upon receipt of the PSA report, the SRNA developed a strategy to implement the recommendations. As of December 2020, I'm happy to report that the SRNA has addressed all the recommendations of the PSA. Examples of the strategies that have been implemented include review and revision of the complaints and investigation policies and procedures, refinement of existing policies and processes, and also development of new processes, education and support for the investigation committee and staff, and updates to the SRNA website. The SRNA has used the PSA review as an opportunity to develop an ongoing quality improvement process for the complaints and investigations functions. Our leadership team, along with our SRNA Council, is proud of the accomplishments of the organization over this last year, and we are pleased to share the details of the work in 2020. The annual report provides the opportunity to publicly share a summary of the hard work of the SRNA. The report can be found online and provides more detail to the items that I have just highlighted. So I'll now move into the financial update. So the financial statements are posted on our website in detail. You can follow the link in your agenda and it will take you directly to those, or go to our website and search for the financial statements or annual report, and you can follow along there. This slide may be difficult for some of you to read, but the information on the slide does match the statement of operations on page 3 of the financial statements if you want to follow along there, or else I'm also going to highlight a lot of the areas. So the financial statements have been examined by the independent auditors Vertis Group LLP, and in their opinion, it is a clear and clean audit. So you will see as of December 31st, 2020, first looking at revenue is that top box. SRNA revenue, I think you all know, primarily comes from licensing fees and investments and other fees, which include exam fees, application fees, and fees of that type. So our revenue is about 185,000 higher over 2019, and that's related to increased membership. We continue to have a very strong membership base. So moving on to expenses. Expenses are fairly consistent over 2019. There's about a $20,000 difference in expenses. However, I will highlight some of the higher areas of variance, whether that's negative or positive. So looking at first affiliation fees, these fees are the Canadian Nurses Association, or CNA, and the CNPS, Canadian Nurses Protective Society fees. And as mentioned in revenue, because we had a higher membership, therefore we have higher corresponding fees for CNA and CNPS. And these fees are a throughput for us. We collect the fees and we send the fees to CNA and CNPS, but you will note that it is higher there, or it's showing a negative variance because of the higher fees. Communications is less in 2020 by about 92,000. And this is as a result of the impact of COVID. Fewer print materials and a virtual versus in-person conference and annual meeting pretty much contributed to that positive variance there. Contracts and consultings. I'm not going to go through every line. I'm just highlighting the higher variances. Contracts and consulting up 34,000 over 2019. And that's as a result of increased legal fees related to complaints, investigation, and discipline. Professional development and meetings, you will see that it's significantly less than 2019. That's about 195,000 that we have a positive variance there. And again, that's directly as a result of the impact of COVID. There was limitations on travel, gatherings, and in-person meetings. So therefore we saw savings there. And then wages and benefits, second from the bottom there, you'll notice are up over 2019. And that is as a result of all positions being filled compared to 2019 and improved retention. So we do end the year of 2020 with a surplus of 242,000. And again, you can see where those biggest variances come from. The main surplus is from meetings, PD, and travel. So in terms of budget for 2021, we have budgeted very similar to what you see here, other than because we weren't sure what the impact when we were budgeting last fall, developing our budget, what the impact of COVID would be this year. We continue to, of course, see those same savings in Q1, but the budget for 2021 will look very consistent to this year, other than we've increased our communications area related to our rebranding. So throughout 2020 and into 2021, we continue to work towards our organizational goals by providing accountable, effective, and transparent profession-led regulation in the interest of the public. We remain an integral partner in health in our province, and we are grateful for the role we play within regulation of nursing practice in Saskatchewan. In closing, I would like to thank you all and wish you a heartfelt happy National Nurses Week. I continue to reflect on how truly appropriate the theme chosen by CNA is. We Answer the Call captures the profession of nursing in the selflessness it requires from those of you and those of who choose its path. Every nurse within our province has and continues to answer the call. The pandemic has asked more from those of us and who have already given so much. And we are fortunate to have so many individuals that are as passionate about devoting their lives to caring for the residents of our province as you all are. We are incredibly proud of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Are there any questions before we move on? Please raise your hand if you have a question, and our tech support will ask you to unmute. In the spirit of staying with the time allotted for this meeting, we will answer questions for a maximum of 20 minutes.
Denise Dick, registered nurse. I actually have 2 financial questions, if I could, Cindy. The first one is in relation to the financial statements or statement of position. From 2019 to 2020 under prepaid expenses, there's a very substantial difference there from 179,000 up to 1.573 million. And I was wondering if you could explain that. And as well, if you're okay, I'll ask both questions together. You made reference to supporting the grassroots development of an association. And I guess it's something that is puzzling me is that it's come to my attention that there are 2 positions in that that are being funded by the SRNA. And I'd like to understand how, when the SRNA still is in place, how, if they're not really an entity yet, how they could be funded through the SRNA. So if you could, I would love some information on those 2 pieces. Thank you.
Sure, thanks, Denise. And excellent question regarding those prepaid expenses. So for those of you that want to reference, it's a statement of financial position. It's on page 1, and we're looking at current assets. And that is a direct result because CNA and CNPS fees were paid prior to December 31st. Our membership year is December 1 to November 30th. And so in previous years, a lot of times we weren't invoiced into the new year, but we happened to pay these expenses prior to December 31st. So that is why we're showing such a large variance. It was just the timing of when those were paid compared to previous years. So I hope that answers your question. And then in terms of the second question, I don't know if Warren, if you want to speak about council support, and I can add.
Sure. As we're going through this transition to a single mandate and helping develop the three pillars going forward, it's going to be some time. Not everything's going to match up and line up perfectly. As we go through with CNA and how that transitions, trying to help getting it go forward. Council is very vested in having a vibrant association. And until everything falls into place, we are helping a little bit of financial support to have that association get off the ground. And if you want to add on.
Sure. And so we do have a legal contract in place, and there are 2 individuals, and I'm not going to speak for the association. They can speak later and talk about that, but we are supporting it. They're not full-time positions. We're supporting to help, like Warren said, to get the association started.
Cindy, Leland Summer, nurse practitioner, Regina. I just want it noted.
Sorry,
Sorry, just a moment, Leland.
Hello?
Go ahead, Leland.
Yep. Sorry. I just want it noted that the financial image that was recorded and presented on the screen, I believe the financial year columns were reversed. So what was presented as 2019 was actually 2020, because what was being said was reversed.
Yeah, it shouldn't be. I have it right in front of me and it's correct, but I didn't see what was on the, I didn't look to see what was on the screen, but this is it. It's a copy of it.
The revenue appeared less for the 2020 year.
So 2020 year, the revenue is 7,178,000 in.
Yeah, and that's under the 2000.
Oh, it does say 2019 at the top. It's, yeah, it's an error. It's not what I have in front of me, but that is an error on the screen. Thank you for identifying that, Leland. Yes, the first column is 2020, where it says 2019. So that is reverse. Thank you. I didn't even notice it because what I have in front of me is correct. So thank you for acknowledging that error. So if anybody has questions because of that, but the numbers are all correct. It just appears the year was incorrect at the top.
Thank you, Leland. Further questions?
It's Sharon Garrett from Regina. Can you hear me?
Yeah, please state your designation as well, please.
Sure. Sharon Garrett, registered nurse from Regina. I know that the fees for CNA and the Canadian Protective Society are flow-through fees. Do you know what will happen with those in future years with the changes that have been acknowledged, or is that affecting 21 budget, or will that be in future budgets?
So yeah, I'll let Cindy go ahead, unless you want.
Yeah, no, well, you can add to, so we don't know that outcome yet, Sharon. Of course, with us giving notice to CNA, and then their annual meetings in June, so whatever depends on their bylaw changes, it may happen sooner. But so we would not be collecting CNA fees because we've given notice December 31st, 2022, unless that happens sooner based on their changes. CNPS continues to be collected from us. There's no change.
Yeah, and I would just add to what Cindy said, the December 2022 is the end date is our jurisdictional rep, where there will be the mandatory fee collection, unless CNA does changes previously to that, and CNPS remains as is with us.
Thank you.
Further questions? Currently, we have nobody with their hand up to ask a question. Give another moment. Thank you for all your questions. We have now reached the end of our question period because there's no questions coming at us. I'll just check one more time with our moderator to be sure that there is nobody wanting to ask a question.
There are no questions.
There are no questions. Thank you. Bylaws. For the proposed bylaw changes to be adopted, 2/3 of those voting must favor the bylaw change. Amendments to the main motion require a simple majority, and amendments must be in written form, but we'll get them verbally and we'll get them written out so that we can have them up on the screen for people to be able to see if that happens. If you have an amendment, please raise your hand and speak to it. There needs to be a motion made by a practicing member and seconded by a practicing member. The chair, in consultation with the parliamentarian, will determine if it is a substantive change that does not allow the proper consultation process with our membership and other stakeholders, which the chair will not allow, or one that clarifies and/or minor changes that do not change intent. Then we will debate and vote on the amendment. I will now ask Frankie Verville to present the proposed bylaws on behalf of the Legend Bylaws Committee.
Thank you, Warren. As the chair of the SRNA Legend Bylaws Committee, I am pleased to present the 2021 proposed bylaws for discussion and decision by the membership. In terms of process for this portion of the meeting, I will provide the membership with the proposed changes and the rationale for those changes. This will be followed by motions by the membership and time for discussion. And this will be followed by the vote. All proposed changes are in red font, and the rationale for the change is presented in the far right column. So the first bylaw that we will be looking at today is Bylaw 4, Membership, Section 2, and there are several proposed changes. We are proposing that subsection 2H in the existing bylaws be removed because there is currently no policy that allows practicing members to receive financial assistance for purposes specified in the policies of the association. The removal of H from this list causes renumbering to occur with existing items I, J, and K. Subsection 3 of this bylaw is newly developed. It includes C, a proposed amendment that changes the requirement for SRNA practicing members to report a criminal charge to the SRNA as soon as is reasonably practical. The current expectations for SRNA practicing members to report a criminal conviction to the SRNA immediately when they become aware of it remains in place. The addition of the professional obligation to report a criminal charge as soon as is reasonably practical enables the SRNA to more fully meet the mandate of protection of the public. The intent of the SRNA is for the registrar to maintain an awareness of the criminal charge or charges while awaiting the findings and outcome of the legal process. This amendment aligns with the bylaws of many other Canadian registered nursing regulatory bodies, including BC, Alberta, Manitoba, Ontario, and Nova Scotia. This change causes a renumbering of items D and E. Section 3, Graduate Nurse Membership, subsection 3B, contains language to increase clarity and align with current document titles regarding practice standards and entry-level competencies. Subsection 3C contains the same proposed amendment as outlined above, where graduate nurses would now have a professional obligation to report a criminal charge as soon as reasonably practical and to immediately report a criminal conviction or finding of guilt. The action of the registrar outlined above is identical. This change causes a renumbering of items D and E. This concludes the proposed changes to this bylaw.
So we have the changes highlighted there in a motion on the screen. Please raise your hand if you would like to move the motion. Please state your name, your designation, and where you reside.
Hello, Karen Eisler, registered nurse, Regina. I move that the bylaw 4, section 2, 2HIJ, 3CDE, and section 3, 3B to E be revised as proposed to our membership.
Please raise your hand if you would like to second the motion.
Candace Blake, nurse practitioner, Cabri, Saskatchewan, ISO second.
Thank you. Would the mover like to speak to the motion? If so, please raise your hand. We'll now open it up for discussion.
Karen Eisler, registered nurse, Regina. I think it's clear descriptions of the changes and of the rationale. So good work. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion?
Sorry, Candace Blake here again. Just my designation is NP. No, thank you.
Any other?
It's Mark Henderson, Saskatoon. Can you hear me?
Yeah, please state your designation, sir.
It's Mark Henderson, registered nurse, Saskatoon. I have a bit of a concern with part of this bylaw change. Last time I checked, I live in a country that is democratically free, and we believe in natural justice. And natural justice suggests that you're innocent until proven guilty. And I have no problem with the section that when you're convicted, you need to report. But I do have significant concerns about having to report when I am only facing an allegation, because as we all understand, an allegation is only that. And I don't believe anything in my personal life should need to be put before any judiciary body until the courts have had their due course. And so I do take exception to the part of the bylaw of reporting when it is only an allegation and there is not a conviction involved. Those are my thoughts.
Thank you.
Hi. Hi, this is Dominique Ali Mezeli, registered nurse from Saskatoon. I agree with the previous speaker who said that I do not believe that people should be reporting allegation against them because I too believe that you're innocent until proven guilty. So I don't see why people should be reporting any allegation to the professional body. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Tara Schmallenberg. I'm a nurse practitioner from Raymore. I would just like to comment to the previous two speakers that I do disagree. I think that the changes to the bylaws are appropriate in keeping with public safety. I think that it is important that that anything would be reported to a regulatory body. It's not saying that anything would change with the license, but say a nurse who works with vulnerable people is charged with with a certain crime, it would potentially make changes if it is appropriate for them to be in a clinical setting. So I do think it is pertinent that this change to the bylaws be made.
Thank you.
Hello, yeah, my name is Marcia Levesque, and I am a registered nurse in Regina. My question is regarding the last three comments. I have a question as to what the purpose or what the rationale would be to have to report to the licensing body if there is an allegation. What is the licensing body going to do with that information? Is there what's a better word to say? Is there, for lack of a better word, a punishment or some sort of disciplinary action if you are in an allegation? And if that is the case, how is that fair? As registered nurses, we do our best to the public, but there will be people within the public that may not like what we do, how we do it. Now, they have the opportunity to go forth and complain or put something into our licensing body or within the health region. So how is this new bylaw that you want to put in place, how does that protect us as registered nurses, because you are a licensing body? So I would like to get those questions answered. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm hearing a couple of questions in there, wanting a little bit more understanding of the rationale and how it protects us as registered nurses. The second one there, I'll just say our role and function is to be protecting the public is our first operating principle. And if I'll talk to our chair of Legend Bylaws here if she wants to expand on the rationale at all.
Sure. Thank you, Warren. So thank you for your comments and your questions. To clarify, this is strictly for criminal charges. So this is not related to any complaints by the public. And so this would just be that they would notify the SRNA of a criminal charge. And the intent is not to be punitive. The intent is for the registrar to have awareness of the charge and to be able to work with that member until that charge is progresses through the courts or other mechanisms. So there will be no punitive issues here from the SRNA to the member. I hope that answers your question.
Do you want to expand at all? Or?
I don't think so. I think Frankie covered that.
Okay.
Well.
Yeah, the intent is to have the awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Dominique Alimezeli, registered nurse from Saskatoon. Again, my belief is that reporting to the registrar for awareness, as it is stated, to me is just, kind of violating the right to privacy to the members. I honestly don't see why the registrar should be aware of allegation against a member. That's just my opinion, because to me, those allegations are private to the member, and I don't see why the registrar should be made aware until there's an actual guilty verdict. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion?
Hi, it's Cindy Sherman in Saskatoon, registered nurse. And my comment / question would be, I imagine that this change in language is really consistent with what all other professional regulatory healthcare bodies do, that it's no significant deviation. And if our mandate is protection of the public, it may in fact be germane for the registrar to have this information earlier rather than later.
Okay. I can't speak for other professional regulatory bodies, but it was in the rationale that some other jurisdictions in Canada do have this in there. This is how some of the other jurisdictions operate.
Hi, it's Glenmary Christopher. I'm a registered nurse in Swift Current. I'd like to speak in support of this motion, given that our mandate is protection of the public. And I wanted to clarify that we keep hearing the word allegation, but in fact, that's different from a criminal charge. And so I agree that if there is a criminal charge, to protect the public, the SRNA needs to be aware. Thank you.
Thank you.
Leland Summer, nurse practitioner, Regina. I speak in support of this motion. It aligns with other regulatory bodies within our nation, and our privilege to license in our designation with SRNA is dependent upon open and transparent communication. And a charge, if a charge is laid, is not an allegation. There's evidence to support that charge in the judicial system of our nation. So I speak in support of this motion and the change of the bylaw.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Michelle Ottenbright. I am a registered nurse in Saskatoon. I also would like to speak in favor of passing this motion. I'm going to give the example of recently in Saskatoon, a minor softball coach was arrested and charged with, lack of a better term, with sexually assaulting a minor as a coach. And although he hasn't been he's been charged, but he hasn't been tried yet. In that time, for me, I personally would not want him coaching my child. So to me, I think of all our pediatric patients or all our vulnerable patients. And I think I wouldn't want anybody who's been charged with something like this looking after a patient. Thank you.
Thank you.
So this is Mark Henderson, RN, Saskatoon.
I just wanted to clarify that there is no other people waiting for it. You will get a chance to speak. We just have to go through the speakers list first.
Yeah,
Mark.
That's fine, Warren. It just, they asked me to unmute, so I did what the screen said, so.
Okay, no, thank you very much. I apologize. We're just working through the virtual platform here and getting the speakers. I can't look across the room and see who's at the mics and stuff, so. Thank you for your patience.
Hi, this is Rachel Martins, registered nurse in Saskatoon. I want to speak to the idea that charges and allegations are different. My husband is a criminal prosecutor for the government of Saskatchewan, and charges and allegations are interchangeable. They are used that way in Canada's criminal code for anything which is before the court and has yet to be unproven. Once they are proven, they are called convictions. Also want to just speak to the idea of self-report. And yes, I have been registered with other provinces across the country in both BC and Nova Scotia, and they do both also require self-reporting of charges or allegations. However, those reports would also come to the licensing body from other sources. It's simply a courtesy that the member would be doing this. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Mr. President. It's Karen Turner, Regina, Saskatchewan. What's at play here in the bylaws?
And sorry, Karen, just your designation as well. I didn't catch that.
Sorry, registered nurse. The discussion here today is about a regulatory bylaw, and it pertains to the character requirement under the Act. And nurses are presumed to have character until it's shown that they're not. And sometimes a criminal charge is very significant, as a couple of the members have pointed out. The registrar needs to be aware of those criminal charges, and they need to be declared. so that she can make a determination, or he, around whether that impacts the public and in what way that impacts the public and the severity. So this is part and parcel of administrative law, and regulators do require members often to report not only convictions, but criminal charges, and sometimes immediately report, as in the RPNAS bylaws around criminal charges and convictions. So it actually is part of the character requirement under the Act, and it is part of an obligation of a member to declare that when it is placed this way in a bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, it looks like we've gone through our current speakers list, and Mark, oh, sorry, one person just stuck up their hand. So we'll go to that person before.
Mary Martin Smith, would you like to speak? You'll need to unmute your mic.
Okay, thank you guys for your patience with us as we work through this virtual platform. We get better at it as we go, but there are glitches along the way. But we do have a speaker, my understanding, Mary Martin Smith. We'll give another 5 seconds here for that to work out. If not, we'll continue on.
We'll move to the next speaker.
Okay. Is there any other new speakers? Yeah, we have some more new speakers.
Hello, it's Karen Elliott, registered nurse Christopher Lake. I'm speaking in favor of this motion, and I don't believe that it's been pointed out yet that we have a code of ethics as a registered nurse, and I believe that this motion supports our adherence to the code of ethics. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ashley Schwartz, go ahead.
Oh, I think my hand was from before. Sorry.
Okay. Just looking at our moderator here, seeing if there's any other hands for people to speak. Okay. We'll go forward to Mark Henderson. And just for formality's sake, I'll get you to reintroduce yourself, please, sir.
Good afternoon. It's Mark Henderson, registered nurse, Saskatoon. So appreciate everybody's comments. I only bring forward the comments to have a wholesome discussion when we are changing bylaws. There are considerations I believe we need to take under our thoughtful process before we pass something. There's no question this goes to character of an individual, but those that have had part with the law know that once in a while there are people that can have their character assassinated, and they need to then go to the courts to have that overturned. Allegation and charge, as we heard helpfully, are interchangeable. Until someone is convicted, it is only an allegation. And to the members' concerns about the severity, I do take that into serious consideration, but then we heard from Frankie that the SRNA would not be taking any course of action until there was a conviction. And I'm struggling with how then we would address that concern. If the SRNA felt the allegation was so egregious that they had to request that that member quit practicing, that would be a serious blow to their ability to work and have income. And then if they were not able to work and the courts found no finding of fact, person is reinstated, what happens to their source of income? There's a bunch of questions that come into this, and who's going to be making what decisions, when and where and how. So I just want a thoughtful dialogue before we pass something like this.
Thank you. I'm going to get Frankie to respond to that comment there, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, for your comment. And yes, I did state that the registrar would not take action. And definitely that is not correct. If it was an egregious charge and she was required to take action, she definitely would. So it probably wouldn't be something in the normal course of charges or allegations, but definitely the registrar always has the ability to take action. Donna Marin, who is her portfolio here at the SRNA as a staff member, is on the Legend Bylaw Committee, and she will speak to this as well. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Donna Marin, registered nurse in Regina. Thank you for calling on me. I do just want to point out that Bylaw 5 already has content. Those provisions already exist where council can place conditions or restrictions on a license in order to protect the public. So that's in section 2.7 on page 25 for a general practice RN. Section 4, subsection 6 for a graduate nurse on page 27, and in bylaw 6, section 3, subsection 12 for nurse practitioners on page 40. So those provisions already do exist if it is necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna, for that clarification. Mark, I hope that that answers your questions.
Thank you. Further discussion?
There's another person.
Yeah. We want to have a good discussion.
Hi, my name is Jeanne Schneider. I'm a registered nurse practicing in Meadow Lake. My concern with the obvious discussion surrounding this, there's a lot of polarized opinions and perspectives. Before anything would be changed in the bylaw, I would like to see more data on this, more rationale. What are you doing with the knowledge? Is that going to be kept on the file forever? How long until that's expunged? Would that impact further renewals, etc., that kind of thing, or transferring to other jurisdictions, especially as it relates to bi-provincially licensed or multi-professional licensed nurses, whether they're nurses and paramedics or nurse RPN and RN, or RN and LPN. I would like to see more data before this gets amended or approved, but I do think it is a step in the right direction for protecting the public. However, there is that concern.
Okay, thank you. Cindy, do you want to?
No, I think she just has made the comment that she wants to see more data.
More
I don't think
data.
I have to respond.
There was the one in there that to make awareness of it with the registrar. My understanding is that she would then have that information and it would be part of somebody's file. But if our registrar. Do we have another? We'll go ahead to our next.
It's the same speaker. Then just to clarify that, if we had if an individual,
I just want to pause just a second here. We're just going to pause for a second and see if there's another new speaker in the queue. No, there isn't. Sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. Just to clarify that these allegations, so unproven charges against a member would then therefore be on our permanent record according to the statements you just made, that they would be held on our registrar file. Is that correct?
For clarification, I'll get our registrar to directly, if possible, is Cheryl able to?
Is Cheryl on and able to? Cheryl, if you're on, or I can, if you, I mean, I know she's on, but if she's able to, or I can speak to it.
Cheryl's on.
Okay. We'll just wait for Cheryl to join us here.
I don't want to put words in our registrar's mouth.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
Hi, Cheryl Hamilton, registered nurse, Regina. So with respect to the question, the information at the time that it came in would be on an individual's record. Those records are confidential, and so they would not be shared even amongst SRNA staff. It would be confidential within the authorized individuals in the SRNA. With respect to your question about would it follow to another jurisdiction, most jurisdictions currently require a criminal record check and or a vulnerable sector check. So it might appear on that when you were transferring to another jurisdiction. And as both Frankie and Donna Marin pointed out, many of the other regulatory bodies in Canada currently ask that question. So the individual moving to that jurisdiction would be required to self-disclose regardless. So, but it would not be something, if the charges were founded to be untrue, it would not be something that would follow on a verification that we would send out to another jurisdiction.
Thank you, Cheryl. You always concisely answer better than I do. So that, I hope that answers the question. Jeanne?
Hi, this is Rachel Martins again, RN practicing in Saskatoon. Just a clarification that allegations and charges, if they are not, if you are not convicted of those things, do not actually appear on your criminal record check.
Thank you.
Hi, Dominique Alimezili, registered nurse, Saskatoon. My question to the registrar would be then, if the person self-disclose of charges and or allegations, if the member is found not guilty, do they have to like, what happened if the member is found not guilty? Do they still have to self-disclose, or do they keep self-disclosing for renewal of license of past charges that were found not guilty?
Cheryl's able to respond.
Cheryl, please raise your hand.
Hi, Cheryl Hamilton, RN, Regina. So to answer your question, no, if the charges were cleared, you would not be required to disclose on subsequent renewal forms. The matter would be considered closed.
Thank you.
Hi, Michelle Ottenbright, registered nurse, Saskatoon. I would just like to throw out this question to all that are opposed to this. I'm just curious, we often see members of our police force, whether Saskatoon, Regina, or smaller RCMP communities, sometimes when they are charged or there's allegations of a charge, it is put in the paper for the public to see. And I'm just wondering how everyone feels about that and how that's different than what we're being asked to vote for in this manner.
Okay, thank you for the comment, Michelle. Just remind people to address the chair possibly, that we're not going to be able to answer to everybody, but I'll just take that as a rhetorical question for people to ponder. Further discussion?
Hello, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Lori Powell, registered nurse from Saskatoon. I think for myself, what I'm hearing is that there's a lot of questions and a lot of inability for members maybe to grasp the entire picture. I'm just not sure what the process would be to request maybe holding off and asking the SRNA to provide additional information prior to a big bylaw change such as this, so that those questions about how would it affect my license, how would it affect my standing and whatnot, and what the process would be if just the charge was being laid. What does that look like, Mr. President? I guess that's my question. Is it possible to delay with increased information provided for next year's annual meeting?
There is the tabling process, and there's also
Vote against the
motion to defeat it and then have it brought back forward at another time. But as far as tabling is one of the things, just consulting with our parliamentarian.
Yeah, it's in practical terms, it's the same thing because we come back next year.
Yeah. So tabling or defeating, if you defeat the motion, and then it would likely come back at another time, but I don't want to prejudge what proposed bylaws next year.
Is tabling something a regular member such as myself asks to do, or what is, I guess I'm asking what the process is for that.
A motion to table.
Yeah, there would be a motion to table.
Can I motion to table?
Yes.
I'd like to motion to table.
Motion to table this bylaw
To the next annual meeting.
to the next annual meeting
Yeah, with additional information provided prior to same.
with additional information provided.
Yeah, a wholesome understanding for members to be able to make a decision. Yeah, please.
Okay. Yeah, and then we're just going to keep your mic open here just for a moment as we get the motion put up on our screen here as it's being typed, and just make sure that we get it accurately. Motion to table the bylaw to the next annual meeting. Okay, yeah, motion to table to the next annual meeting. Is that clear and concise? We'll get a seconder for it.
Rachel Martins, RN Saskatoon. I will second the motion to table this bylaw to the next annual meeting. It's RACHEAL.
Table to next. So we have a live motion on the floor to table this.
No discussion, I think. You just vote.
Okay, I'm just consulting with our parliamentarian, and that there is no discussion on this. It's just going to go straight to a vote, to my understanding, and it should require just a
Majority vote.
majority vote. Yeah. I just want to make sure that we're certain on this.
Bad index.
Just get the clarity on that. Tabling. Dandy one here too. Okay, tabling. to make sure that we're not shutting down discussion if there's discussion, but phone discussion.
I can't find this.
Applications of motions.
Not debatable, not amendable.
Not debatable, not amendable. We're just going to go straight to a vote.
Correct.
Beauty. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. I just
Uh,
always want to make sure that we're going clear
It also requires a 2/3 approval, not a majority.
to table. It requires a 2/3.
Yep.
Okay. So we will require, I just wanted everybody to be clear with what's going on right now. We do have clarity. We need a 2/3 majority to table this or postpone till,
Yep.
as it says. And so we are going to go to voting. And we have that's done there. So I will now call for the vote. Those in favor, please select for. Those opposed, please select against. And we are voting on the motion to table bylaw 4 to the next annual meeting.
We are now going through the voting period. You have 30 seconds to vote. Start voting now.
If it's tabled, if it's tabling the original motion, so if it's tabled, it'll just go. It'll pass.
Thank you. Voting has ended.
And the results are in. We have 4 tabling, 67% meets the 2/3 majority, 32% against. And so this motion is carried to table to the next annual meeting, and we have an abstainer. And I'm curious if the abstainer would like to raise their hand and have this recorded in the minutes. Okay, seeing that being there. So we have tabled this for the next AGM. Thank you for the good discussion and debate. It's always one of the best things about the SRNA membership is that we take the time to thoughtfully consider everything and have a good discussion. I appreciate that. We're going to continue to move on to our next proposed bylaw.
Thank you, Warren. The next bylaw that we will look at is bylaw 5, registration, proposed amendments in section 3, maintaining eligibility for registration. Provide clarity about the requirements an applicant must meet to maintain eligibility. Item A is an editorial change. Items C and D are new and provide additional information on maintaining eligibility. Specifically, members must C, have completed an approved reentry program in the 5-year period immediately preceding the registration year for which registration is sought, or D, completed an approved nursing education program in the 5-year period immediately preceding the registration year for which registration is sought. This concludes the proposed changes to this bylaw.
Please raise your hand if you would like to move the motion. Please state your name, your designation, and where you reside.
Hello, Leah Thorpe, registered nurse, Regina. I move that bylaw 5, section 3, 1, A to D be revised as proposed to our membership.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder?
Hello, Fred Entz, RN, Saskatoon. I so second.
Thank you. We'll now open this up to discussion.
If you wish to speak, please raise your hand and we will create a speakers list and we'll call upon you in the order of those who have asked to speak. You must state your full name and where you reside.
Robin Evans, registered nurse, Regina. I just want to point out that the section D, where it's proposed section D, where it says complete and approved nursing education program in the preceding 5 years. I just want to make sure that everyone understands that that currently is not available. Both universities in Saskatchewan and our registrar tells me that it's the majority of universities across Canada will not allow a second degree with the same major. And so someone who would present with having a degree would not be able to take, in nursing, would not be able to take a degree program in nursing. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Okay. See no more discussion. I will call for the vote. Those in favor, please select for. Those opposed, please select against.
We are now going through the voting period. You have 30 seconds to vote. Start voting now. Thank you. Voting has ended.
And the results are in. We have 85% against, 11%. Meets the threshold of 2/3. Motion carried. We do have abstention. Abstainers. If you would like to have the abstention recorded in the minutes, please raise your hand.
Dominique Ali Mizili, registered nurse, Saskatoon.
Do you want to state your rationale?
Simply, I did not really understand what that motion was about. That's why I couldn't vote.
Okay. Thank you. We will move on to our next bylaw.
Okay, thank you, Warren. So we are moving to bylaw 6, categories of practice, section 3, nurse practitioner category. And we're looking at subsection 3A, contains proposed changes to the language within the bylaw to improve clarity and meld with the SRNA style guide. Additionally, there are editorial changes to language related to practice standards and entry-level competencies for 3A and 3B. This is proposed so that the language aligns with these SRNA documents. Subsection 3B also contains proposed amendments to the STEM statement by adding the word request when referring to screening and diagnostic testing, and the list removes item 6, forms of non-contrast radiographic energy. And this change allows for all forms of diagnostic imaging to be dealt with in the next subsection of the bylaw. Subsection 3C has been newly created and contains proposed amendments that enable NPs to order or request medical imaging with contrast dye when clinical best practice evidence supports this, and it is in the best interest of the client. This includes MRIs, CTs with contrast, and so on. Nurse practitioners would not take responsibility for final interpretation of medical imaging studies, but can interpret the findings in the report in relation to the care of the client. Appropriate treatment may be initiated while awaiting final interpretation by the diagnostic radiologist. With the addition of C, renumbering needed to occur, resulting in D and E. With these subsections were being renumbered, wording was changed to provide clarity and alignment with the terminology, practice standards, and entry-level competencies. Subsection 4 terminology changes are similar. Proposed changes to subsection 5 outlines more clearly the initial licensure requirements for NPs. This concludes the proposed changes to this bylaw.
Please raise your hand if you would like to move the motion. Please state your name, designation, and where you reside.
Leland Summer, nurse practitioner, Regina. I so move the bylaw 6, section, sorry, can you move the screen down? Section 3, I think. 3A, B, V, VI, C, D, E, and 4, 5, B, I, and 1, I, and 2 be revised as proposed to our membership.
Thank you. Please raise your hand if you would like to second the motion.
This is Sarah Schmallenberg, nurse practitioner. I second the motion as read.
Thank you. Would the mover like to speak to the motion? If so, please raise your hand.
I just wish to thank the regulatory body and all professionals that worked on this bylaw change. A similar bylaw was presented last year, and many revisions were made. And this supports evidence-based practice for nurse practitioners for better access for our clients throughout this province.
Thank you. Open it up to discussion.
If you wish to speak, please raise your hand and we will create a speakers list and we'll call upon you in the order of those who have asked to speak. You must state your full name and where you reside. You will have 2 minutes to speak.
Hi, this is Dominique Ali Mezeli, registered nurse Saskatoon. I just wanted to say that I abstained on the previous motion and my first name was not spelled correctly. So
Okay, we'll clarify the accurate spelling of your name. We'll make sure that we get that accurate. If you want to just spell it for us now. It's a little out of order, but we want to make it accurate.
So it's DOMINIQUE. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Sorry, yeah, I know that was a little, we want to be accurate, so a little out of order, but that's okay. Any further discussion with respect to this bylaw?
This is Tara Schmallenberg, nurse practitioner from Raymore. Again, I too, like Leland, would just also like to speak in support of this bylaw. This is a very evidence-based step forward for nurse practitioners in Saskatchewan that will greatly increase not only the quality of patient care, but also access to patient care throughout the province.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing that there is no further discussion, I will now call for the vote. Please, those in favor, please select for. Those opposed, please select against.
We are now going through the voting period. You have 30 seconds to vote. Start voting now. Thank you. Voting has ended.
And the results are in. 96% for, 2% against, 2% abstention. Motion carried. And if the people who abstained would like to be recorded, please raise your hand and we will unmute you. There is.
Kristen Joy. Would you like to speak?
Sorry, I made a mistake. I do want to abstain.
Okay. Thank you. Somebody else that voted to abstain and wants to be recorded in the minutes.
Lila Battini, sorry, your version of Zoom is not up to date, so I'm not able to allow you to talk.
Okay, but she did raise her hand and abstained?
She raised her hand.
Okay. We just won't be able to get the rationale, but we will record that as an abstention. Thank you. We will move on to our next bylaw.
Thanks, Warren. So the next bylaw that we are looking at is bylaw 8, examinations, section 1, registered nurse exam. Subsection 3 is deemed unnecessary within the bylaws, given that candidates have unlimited rights of the NCLEX exam. Therefore, the proposed amendment removes it from the bylaws. Section 2, nurse practitioner examinations of this bylaw, has a proposed amendment to add the option for NP candidates who complete a neonatal focus program to undertake the Objective Structured Clinical Exam, or OSCE, from Dalhousie University, located in Halifax, Nova Scotia, in order to be eligible for registration. This addition provides more option for NPs to complete their examinations, which are necessary to attain licensure and aligns with Canadian labor mobility principles. This concludes the proposed changes to this bylaw.
Raise your hand if you would like to move the motion. Please state your name, your designation, and where you reside.
Hi, this is Rhonda Zinger, registered nurse, Lloydminster. I make a motion that bylaw 8, section 1(3) and section 2(1)(a) be revised as proposed to our membership.
Thank you. Please raise your hand if you would like to second the motion.
Betty Metzler, RN, Milestone. ISO second.
Thank you. We'll now open this up to discussion. If you would like to discuss the motion, please raise your hand. Then our tech support will give you permission to unmute your mic.
If you wish to speak, please raise your hand and we will create a speakers list and we'll call upon you in the order of those who have asked to speak.
I always like to give just a little bit of time for people to. And we're still seeing no discussion. Okay. Seeing no more discussion, I will call for the vote. Those in favor, please select for. Those opposed, please select against.
We are now going through the voting period. You have 30 seconds to vote. Start voting now. Thank you. Voting has ended.
And the results are in. For 97%, against 2%, abstaining 1%. Motion carried. And yeah, for the abstainer or abstainers, sorry, if you would like to be recorded in the minutes as abstaining, please raise your hand. Okay. We're good to move on to the next bylaw. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Warren. Bylaw 9, Council and Statutory Committees, Section 1. The proposed amendment to subsection 3 would maintain council's responsibility to make all council committee appointments with the exception of the elected members of the nominations committee. The word shall indicates a mandatory action. The word may is the more appropriate term. This concludes the proposed changes to this bylaw.
Please raise your hand if you would like to move the motion. Please state your name, your designation, and where you reside.
Candace Blake, nurse practitioner, Cabri, Saskatchewan. I so move the bylaw change to bylaw 4 or 9, whichever that one is, section 1(3) as proposed.
If you could read the motion as we got it on the screen, that would be great.
Sure. That bylaw, sorry, which bylaw is that? 9? Bad at numerals. Section 1(3) be revised as proposed to our membership.
Perfect. Thank you. Just for clarifying that motion, just so that we're all on the same page. Thank you very much. If you would like to second the motion, please raise your hand.
Joanne Peterson, RN Musha, I so second.
Thank you. Would the mover like to speak to the motion? So we will open this up to discussion. If you'd like to discuss the motion, please raise your hand. Then our tech support will give you permission to unmute your mic.
Hi, Cindy Sherburne, RN Saskatoon. I'm just curious what has prompted this, whether it was really a timing issue. I can understand if a position is vacated, say in February and elections are in May. But what would happen, if it was in June, there was a mass exodus or a pandemic that wiped out a few of our council members? What is the assurance to the membership that we have an adequate number of council members available to do the work of council for their term?
So this is about naming an alternate. The current practice when there has been vacancies to council is that we have appointed until the next election can be held. It's the naming of an alternate that is and we haven't been doing that previously. And if Frankie wants to expand on that, but it's more, this is reflecting our actual practice. We do appoint for vacancies until the next election where an election can be held. And this is about speaking specifically to an alternate, to have an alternate named, and we're not in the practice currently of having alternates at the ready in the event of a vacancy.
Thank you.
Is that any further discussion? Seeing no more discussion, I will call for the vote. Those in favor, please select for. Those opposed, please select against.
We are now going through the voting period. You have 30 seconds to vote. Start voting now. Thank you. Voting has ended.
And the results are in. For 97%, against 3%, abstain 1%. Motion carried. If you have abstained and you would like your name recorded in the minutes, please raise your hand. See nobody raising their hand. We will move on to our next bylaw. Frankie.
Thank you. So now we are going to bylaw 15, standards and competencies. Subsections 3, 4, and 5 include proposed amendments that are editorial in nature, as they simply highlight the dates when these 3 documents received minor revisions to the titles of nurse practitioner or NP. This change was made in relation to the title change from registered nurse, nurse practitioner, or RNNP that was approved by membership previously at an annual meeting. A commitment was made by the SRNA to update this language where applicable. These documents have already been incorporated by reference, so this is a housekeeping change to indicate the new date when the content changes that were limited to nurse practitioner or NP title occurred. This concludes the proposed changes to this bylaw.
Please raise your hand if you would like to move the motion. Please state your name, your designation, and where you reside.
My name is Andrei Guravsky, and I vote to move this motion.
If you could please also state your designation and read the motion.
Andrei Guravsky, registered nurse in Saskatoon.
And if you could read the motion, that would be great.
Could they spell the name?
Oh, sorry, and I apologize. We also want you to get you to spell your name so that we accurately reflect.
Andriy. Last name is Gurav. Riy. Last name is Guravskyy. And I vote that we revise.
I just want to clarify that you're moving. You're not voting right now. You're moving.
I move for bylaw that we move to revise as proposed to our membership.
Okay. Thank you, Andrew. It would be great if you could just read it as it says on the screen.
That bylaw section 1, 3, 4, and 5 be revised as proposed to our membership.
Okay. And for clarity, you're wanting that bylaw 15, section 1, 3, 4, and 5 be revised as proposed to our membership?
That is correct. Bylaw 15, section 1, 3, 4, and 5 be revised as proposed to our membership.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Please raise your hand if you would like to second the motion.
Karen Gumagwin, RN, Saskatoon. I second the motion.
I'm not sure if we caught your name. I apologize. There was just a noise in the. Karen?
Yeah. Last name Dumagwin, D as in door, UMA, GUIN. D as in door, UMA, GUIN. RN, Saskatoon. I second the motion.
Thank you very much. Would the mover like to speak to the motion? If so, please raise your hand. We will now open this up for discussion. If you would like to discuss the motion, please raise your hand. And then our tech support will ask you to unmute your mic. And it doesn't look like there's any discussion. Still no discussion. Okay. I will now call for the vote. If you would like to vote in favor, please select for. Those opposed, please select against.
We are now going through the voting period. You have 30 seconds to vote. Start voting now. Thank you. Voting has ended.
And the results are in. For 99%. Against 0%, abstention 1%. If you have abstained and you would like it recorded, please raise your hand. Okay, so that motion was carried and we're moving on to the next.
All right. So for this section, we are proposing changes to all bylaws where the word license is currently used be revised to read license in every instance. This concludes the proposed changes to the bylaws for 2021.
Please raise your hand if you would like to move the motion. Please state your name, your designation, and where you reside.
Moni Snell, nurse practitioner, Regina. I move that the bylaws will be revised to read license in every instance where the word license is currently used as proposed to our membership.
Thank you. Please raise your hand if you would like to second the motion.
Can you hear me?
I can hear somebody say, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Kaylin Gustafson, RN Saskatoon. I second the motion.
Thank you very much. We'll now open this up for discussion. If you would like to discuss this motion, please raise your hand. And our tech support will give you permission to unmute your mic. Seeing no discussion, I will call for the vote. Those in favor, please select for. Those opposed, please select against.
We are now going through the voting period. You have 30 seconds to vote. Start voting now. Thank you. Voting has ended.
And the results are in. 98% for, 2% against, 1% abstain. If you have abstained and you would like your name recorded in the minutes, please raise your hand. Okay. This motion is carried. And that completes the bylaw portion of the meeting. Thank you. Thank you, Frankie, and the members of the Legislation and Bylaw Committee. You guys have done excellent work, and we'll continue with that one that was tabled for next year, so we have more discussion next year. My duties as the president of the Saskatchewan Registered Nurses Association are now officially complete. It gives me great pleasure to turn the chair over to incoming President Francois Verville. Frankie has served on council for the past 2 years, with 1 year as president-elect. Frankie is a passionate and vocal supporter of the nursing profession. She believes that RNs and NPs can influence and improve the care of the people of Saskatchewan. Her commitment to improving patient care outcomes has been the impetus for ongoing professional development. She is committed to demonstrating the difference RNs make in all areas of care delivery. You're in very good hands. I am pleased to present Frankie with the SRNA Council pin.
Thank you, Warren. As this is my first address as president, I would like to start by thanking you all for the opportunity to take on this very important leadership role. I consider myself very fortunate to be here at a time when so much change is on the horizon for the organization. I come to this role with years of experience as an RN in acute care, and as a nurse practitioner, I have worked within urban, rural, and remote communities. Currently, I am the program head at Saskatchewan Polytechnic of the Collaborative Nurse Practitioner Program. And I truly believe that RNs can influence and improve care for the people of Saskatchewan. And I'm committed to demonstrating the difference RNs make in all areas of care delivery. I'm very eager to begin this new journey. As we continue towards a single mandate, we are faced with many new and exciting steps. The organization is amid a rebrand, currently conducting focus groups with staff, SRNA members, and members of the public to gather information, thoughts, and opinions. As our mission is to protect the public through regulatory excellence, we remain committed to keeping members of the public informed and involved along the way. Their thoughts and feedback, as well as yours, are necessary for this transition to be successful. As a council, we are also undergoing a governance review to identify governance principles, structural and process best practices, changes necessary to update and strengthen the integrity of the SRNA's regulatory framework and its mandate to ensure public protection. This initiative is well underway, and our new council will continue to further this work. With our transition comes the formation of a new association, and with it, our support for them continues as they navigate this significant undertaking. I place great value on the perspective the association will bring to the nursing profession in Saskatchewan and look forward to working with them in the future. I hope that you stay on this Zoom call once we adjourn our annual meeting so you can hear from the new association and learn about the work that's been done to date and what is yet to come. Thank you for trusting me as the president of your regulatory body. I'm excited for the opportunities this new role will bring and look forward to working with our council, SRNA staff, and all of our partners in health. Thank you. At this time, I would like to thank outgoing council members at large. Marilyn Barlow, who has served on council for 2 terms. I would also like to thank Betty Metzler, Fred Entz, and Moni Snell, who were all appointed to their current positions for a 1-year term. We also have 2 public representatives that have now completed their full terms on the SRNA Council, James Struthers, QC, and Joanna Alexander. I would also like to take a moment to thank all the council members for the time, effort, and passion they have contributed to the governance of the SRNA over the past year. We will now move on to the results of this year's election for the SRNA Council and Nominations Committee. I have received the election report from the Executive Director, and the total number of ballots received are loud. The total number of votes cast were 651. We have two members who are the sole candidates for the position they put their name forward for. Therefore, they succeed in obtaining their position by acclamation. These candidates are Eliza Celeste, RN. She will serve her first term as the member at large for Region 2. And Andrew Gorofsky, RN, will serve his first term on the nominations committee. Now turning to the election results. The names and number of votes received by each candidate are: candidates for members at large, nursing practice area, advanced practice nursing, or direct care. Becky Jo Campbell, NP, 211 votes. Monica Costa, RN, 140 votes. Jolynn Radbourne, nurse practitioner, 268 votes. I declare Jolynn Radbourne as the council member at large, representing nursing practice area, advanced practice nursing, or direct care. Congratulations, Jolynn. Candidates for members at large, Region 4, are Mary Ellen Walker, 379 votes. Fred Entz, 235 votes. I declare Mary Ellen Walker as the council member at large representing Region 4. Congratulations, Mary Ellen. Candidates for president-elect, Moni Snell, 300 votes. Marianne Denton, 96 votes. Jared Pazuko, 116 votes. And Marcia Levesque, 128 votes. I declare Moni Snell, NP, as the council president-elect for a 2-year term. Congratulations, Moni. I would like to thank all the candidates for allowing their name to stand and encourage all registered nurses to consider running or nominating someone at another time, and or to pursue committee work within the SRNA. There are numerous ways for you to be involved in your regulatory body. I now ask for a motion to destroy the ballots after 90 days.
Good afternoon. My name is Lynn Farthing and I'm a registered nurse from Leask, and I would like to make a motion that the ballots be destroyed 90 days from this date. This will mean the destruction of the electronic record of the election results.
Could I have someone second the motion, please?
Lori Powell, registered nurse, Saskatoon, ISO second.
Thank you. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion? We'll open it up for discussion.
If you wish to speak, please raise your hand and we will create a speakers list and we'll call upon you in the order of those who asked to speak. None. Seeing that there's no discussion, I'll now call for the vote. Those in favor, please select for. Those opposed, please select against. You have 30 seconds to vote. We are now going through the voting period. Start voting now. Thank you. Voting has ended.
Thank you. The motion is carried. I would like to thank our parliamentarian, Marilee Rasmussen, our scrutineer, Crystalline Farthing, and the SRNA staff and all the members present today. I invite the members of the 2021 Council to join me on the screen. Please raise your hand and tech support will now give you permission
to turn on your camera so you can join me. I am your president-elect, Frankie Verville. Your president-elect is Moni Snell. Members at large, Rhonda Zinger, RN, Leah Thorpe, RN, Kathy Shabbat, RN, Eliza Celeste, RN, Becky Jo Campbell, NP, Mary Ellen Walker, RN. Public representatives are Joanna Alexander, James Struthers, and Doug Finney, and the Executive Director, Cindy Smith. Please welcome your 2021-2022 SRNA Council.
Yeah, council.
Thank you very much. Thank you for attending the 2021 SRNA Virtual Annual Meeting. Your participation in your regulatory body and association is important for the profession of registered nursing in Saskatchewan. Once we adjourn the meeting today, a reminder that Maureen Plank, Interim Director for the newly formed Saskatchewan Nurses Association, will join us to provide you with an update. I will now ask Elder Jeanne Sutherland to close our meeting.
There I am. Okay. She just moved or something. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
All right. It was an exciting afternoon, very interesting to listen to. Congratulations to everyone. Sad to see the others leave. You know, I've been here for years and have gotten to know, and now I get to know more new people. And I know there's a meeting in June coming up, and it's kind of iffy to see everyone in person, but fingers crossed we can in August, because I would love to give a hug to everyone. I miss that. I really miss it. And I will end the meeting with my prayer for everyone's safety. Thank you for all the work that everyone does. The nurses in the front lines, I can imagine what all of you see that we don't. And I would like to end always with my same thing. Don't forget to hug your loved ones. Tell them that you love them each day. We don't know what the Creator has in store for us tomorrow. Anything can happen by tonight, tomorrow morning. Don't let it be your last. And I know you can't hug everyone, but those that you have at home with you. And with that, stay safe. Love you all. En een naskomoyan kakjuk takiskalen bosiak, mamatachon gap maktik. En een naskomoyan, oke maskikio skok, maskiki wino, kakio kanak toketsko, heisino kaksit mekat. Mistä he aimanik tatoske winuam. Tamiko sintehi, en een naskomoyan. Kanakto Kamona now Asak. Micheta Asek Osamuteno Tekated. Mitskete Micheta Maxit. Michetuma. Ikiwan Hakuma Hakson Kat Maktek. Micheta Tossum Shorty Tehet. Doskaim Nana Katon Skanokat Mitsahak. Monotari and the Taman, a skitats cook. Mitchavakan wall, tossum saw, some more, taquaskit nuts, Dochema was a chick. Elquanan manus and Askamon Monotari. Aha.
Thank you, Elder Jean. As always, you bring a very needed perspective to these proceedings, and I echo your sentiments in the wish and the hope that we can meet together in June. I will now ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting. If someone can please raise their hand to make that motion.
Hi, it's once again Lori Powell, registered nurse Saskatoon. I motion to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder, please?
Beverly Belaski, registered nurse Regina.
Thank you. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion? Is there any discussion? Then I'll call for the vote. Those in favor, please select for. Those opposed, please select against. You have 30 seconds to vote.
Start voting now. Thank you. Voting has ended.
Thank you. The motion is carried. I now declare the 104th annual meeting of the Saskatchewan Registered Nurses Association adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for attending and for your participation. I will now turn it over to Maureen Plank and the Saskatchewan Nurses Association. Thank you.
Maureen, can you please raise your hand?
Thank you, everybody, for this great opportunity for us to chat. Can I or should I turn my camera on or should I leave it off?
Please turn it on, Maureen.
All right, there we go. I just wasn't sure broadband and all that stuff, but anyway. So thank you for allowing this organization to have a few moments of everyone's time. And I would like to share my screen. I hope that worked for everyone. My fellow colleague Jeanne introduced me to the world of Prezi. So instead of a PowerPoint, I'm using a Prezi, which I've never used before, but hey, we'll give it a go. We all need to keep learning. So I'd like to just briefly introduce myself. I'm cognizant of the time and, we won't take too much of your time. I am a registered nurse. I am a registered nurse, yes, but I'm also a nurse practitioner. And I very much champion this cause right from the get-go because I was also instrumental in forming the only other nursing advocacy group in Saskatchewan, the Saskatchewan Association of Nurse Practitioners. That was actually a big leap at the time. That organization is now, I believe it's 11 years old now. And we were the only advocacy group that was a nonprofit organization, not affiliated with a regulator or any other body of nursing. We were very much standalone at the time, and that was in Canada in its entirety. We were the only group. So we really had to build our organization from the ground up without knowing where we could go and what we could do, really. But we thought we would try. And the reason, it's important for people to understand the reason why SANP did form. We did have a special interest group by the name of Nurse Practitioners of Saskatchewan, which, as I said, was a special interest group of SRNA. But the Nurse Practitioners Association was only able to speak in relation to the mandate of SRNA. Which the nurse practitioners at the time found quite constraining. So just bear that in mind as we move through this presentation. I am the interim director, and we have Jeanne Bruce, who also was with me when we formed the SANP, and she is instrumental in moving forward. Jeanne is not a nurse. She is more the business, human resources side of things, and administrative side of things. And she keeps me very organized, and that's wonderful. So the Saskatchewan Nurses Association is in its very, very beginning stages of development. But before I move into that, I would like to acknowledge that we are meeting virtually today. And so I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of traditional lands, which we call home. I want to acknowledge that in Saskatchewan, we are all on treaty land, and I am joining you today from Treaty 4 territory, traditional territory of the Nahio, the Cree, Saulteaux, Saulteaux, the Lakota, Nakota, and formerly Blackfoot and traditional homeland of the Métis. And I would like to pay my respects for the National Day of Awareness for the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls by wearing red today. And I would also like to congratulate the new and continuing members of Council of the SRNA. You have steered us well in the past, and I know that you will continue to steer us well as you move with your new mandate as our new mandate. With that, I just wanted to say to start that the separation of regulation from advocacy is occurring nationally. We saw it quite a few years ago with the formation of the Canadian Council of Registered Nurses. They are the regulating side of the national organization, and CNA. Prior to that, CNA also did the exams, but there was a division there. And we've seen it in BC, and we've seen it, it's slowly moving across the country that, the regulator is moving away from advocacy, predominantly based on the idea that, there's a bit of a conflict. If a regulator is representing the public and protecting the public, can they still promote the role of nursing? And that's what this is mostly based on. So I share with you this little diagram. I like to see things visually. So just to give you a bit of an idea, that the three pillars that's being talked about nationally, there's the pillar of regulation, which is the public. There's the pillar of the union, which acts on behalf of nurses, primarily to secure salary, benefits, working conditions. And then the association, which acts on the behalf of nursing to advance the professional and influence healthy social public policy. And to give you a bit of an example of how this has occurred in the past, there was also, there is an advocacy group for nurse practitioners at the national level. At the time, it was called the Canadian Association of Advanced Practice Nurses. It has since changed its name. It's the Nurse Practitioners Association of Canada. But that organization was very instrumental in advocating to our federal government that nurse practitioners would be able, within their scopes of practice, to perform MAID. the medical assistance in dying. And we were invited to present to the federal committees, to along with CNA to argue our case. And in fact, we were named in the regulation that enabled nurse practitioners to perform MAID. But of course, it couldn't stop there. Our regulators then needed to become involved nationally. Each regulator needed to become involved to ensure that this could be operationalized, that that there was the appropriate paperwork and competence levels, and continuing education, all the pieces that need to be in place to protect the public. And then the unions at the same time, not after, but at the same time, unions were also looking at this, the various unions representing registered nurses and nurse practitioners. We're talking about how would MAID fit in with, safe workplace balance, possible overtime, or whatever, however our work-life balance could be affected by nurse practitioners performing MAID. So that's just a small example of how the three pillars can work together. And I'd like you to notice that the circles do overlap purposely, because there will be overlap. And some people could say that will add to confusion, but the reality is any issue will need to have some input from all three pillars. And so there will be some overlap in the role, in the mandate as we move forward. So basically, I have probably already covered a little bit of this in my introduction, but why do nurses need a professional association? There is the opportunities for engaging and meeting with peers and colleagues. There is the advocacy and protect the interest of the nursing professions. There's continuing educational opportunities that could be offered from a advocacy group. SRNA did have an education conference at one point in time. The Saskatchewan Association of Nurse Practitioners does have an education conference. That those kinds of things can happen with a professional association. And it's also an ability to continue to connect at an advocacy level with other nursing national bodies and stakeholders. These are just some of the opportunities that are present. Who knows, where this will go, because this is still very new as we move across the country for the various jurisdictions. I'm just giving the idea of where we were at, what we can see at right now. The next part of the presentation is our current environment in Saskatchewan. So SRNA voted unanimously to proceed with the single mandate of regulation, which then obviously lent itself that RNs, nurse practitioners, would no longer have an advocacy voice. We have heard from Sutherland that in 2017, they also eliminated advocacy. And we have heard from RPNS that they are also RPNAS, I believe it is, sorry about that, currently are discussing this within their council as well, have not decided yet. And then we also know that NPs have gone forward and they have formed a nonprofit advocacy group in 2009. So I was correct in years. So that's kind of the current environment in Saskatchewan. And so just to go over a little bit of the history of how we were formed, as Cindy alluded to earlier in the meeting, that SRNA did send out an initial invitation to the various people who identified themselves as champions. And I was one of those people that went to that first meeting. From there, it was decided, like from the champion group, it was decided that we needed broader invitations, and we should look at all the nursing professions, to be included in the discussions, to at least see if there was interest. So at that point in time, an invitation was sent out, and we had lots of people putting their name forward and wanting to be a part of this. And so we did have a large number of participants from the various nursing disciplines at the next meeting. And it was at that meeting that it was decided that SRNA would be no longer directly involved in the meetings and the running of the meetings and the decision making. The chair was basically handed over to myself for the next few meetings. But SRNA did continue to support us and still continues to support us, especially from a technological perspective. We use their Zoom platform. They've been kind enough to allow us to have some of those building blocks in place. So there also is the, and from that meeting, it was decided that there was too many people to try and get consensus really at the, that showed their interest. And so it was decided that a smaller group called a steering committee would form. And from that steering committee, I point out that it does actually include and represent all the nursing professions, RNs, NPs, RPNs, and LPNs at this point in time on the steering committee. The steering committee came up with some names, and we voted on them as a steering committee for our new organization. And then we had we didn't finalize that. We had a few what we considered winning names. And then we put that forward to the larger group that showed interest initially and held a vote. And so that is how we got to the formation of the name, the Saskatchewan Nurses Association. Just if anybody was interested in knowing that. Of course, names can change as we move forward. This is a steering committee, not the council. And so, maybe once council, a board of directors, whatever, possibly, if people really dislike names or this name or don't feel comfortable with it, then maybe that will change in the future. But at this point in time, the name is the Saskatchewan Nurses Association. And so where we're at today, as I said, very, very infancy stages. We are supported by the Saskatchewan Registered Nurses Association. As Cindy said, it was in their mandate to support the formation of a professional advocacy group after the decision to have a regulatory only mandate. SRNA understands and appreciates that advocacy for nursing is important. So they have provided the technology support and some limited financial support in relation to the contract for an interim director and an interim project manager slash administrative coordinator, who is Jeanne Bruce, as I've mentioned. Without this support, it would just take so much longer to organize. And it really is fantastic that SRNA has been able to do this and found it in their budget. This is not forever funding, obviously. We will need to have a membership base that will then support the moving forward of this organization. So we are engaged in the facilitation process as well to look at a draft mission, vision, goals for the association, and we're exploring the requirements for nonprofit status for the association at this point in time, getting some of those building blocks in place, like a bank account and some of those other needed items. We'll have to look at how we're going to communicate. We're going to have to look at with our members and with other groups. You know, we're going to have to look at, you know, just what type of membership will there be, board of directors, all those kinds of things, the formation. We are participating in dialogue with the regulatory associations as much as we can, and as many stakeholders as we can. We have reached out in the last couple of weeks to start the ball rolling, and we hope to continue with that, you know, for a long time to come. So we'll see how that works. And to go to the future of the future direction of SNA, you know, we don't have a crystal ball. We can't really see for sure, but we do know in the short term of the future that there will be some decision-making procedures that will need to be put in place. For the steering, right from the steering committee, you know, we'll have to, we haven't had a chance to really look at terms of reference, you know, and some of those kinds of documents that will be needed. But that is very much on our agenda to look at. We'll have to have some, you know, possible timelines for the evolution of the Saskatchewan Nursing Association. And we'll be hoping to gather feedback from nursing professions and stakeholders, which will help us provide some direction for the Saskatchewan Nurses Association. I think it's really important for us to, for me to say at this point in time, I've said it before, I don't believe that this is a group that is a standalone organization. I think there are already some really strong nursing organizations in the province of Saskatchewan. And I see this organization as building, you know, filling a gap maybe, but we're not here to eliminate anybody else's roles. We're not here to, you know, reinvent wheels. We're here to look at, you know, how we can enhance what's already been happening in Saskatchewan. I also had kind of an interesting meeting just before the SRNA meeting that was kind of an aha moment for me, and made me realize that we also have a lot of work to build what was referred to as an ethical space, which was a term that I hadn't really heard of that much before. And we're going to have to develop trusting relationships and really work on those trusting relationships between the nursing family members themselves. You know, we're going to have to make sure that we have the solid relationship and foundations between, you know, nurse practitioners and registered nurses and registered psych nurses and the licensed practical nurses. And we're going to have a good understanding that every one of those professions has their own culture, their own way of doing, their own way of thinking, and that the role of the Saskatchewan Nurses Association is going to really have to work on, you know, having a very strong ethical space for all those voices to be able to come together, to be honored, to be equal, and to also, I would hope that we could also get to the point where all of those groups can speak out on behalf, with their permission, of course, other of the nursing groups, and being able to support where you know, other nursing groups would maybe have a fundamental role in providing you know, whatever care at that point in time. You know, so back to the whole idea of the right provider at the right time. You know, that's probably a little bit further down the future. I think that there's first going to have to be a lot of work respecting and building trusting relationships between the nursing family members that will be at the board of directors. We're hoping, well, it has more or less been stated that, we would really like to see, from the steering committee perspective, we would like to see equal representation on the board of directors for the Saskatchewan Nurses Association. And we would like to see each of those boards of director positions have an equal respected voice at the table. We will be examining various governance models that will, hopefully make that happen. But as I said, I don't have a crystal ball. I can't guarantee at this point in time, but that is the steering committee's wish that we will eventually have a voice, equal voice for all nursing families at the board of directors, where they feel welcome and the trust is obvious, and they feel trusted and understood. That was kind of it. It was kind of quick, I know, but I'm open to questions. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer any questions at this point in time. I'm not sure how you go about sharing mics, though.
Maureen, it's Tanya. I can allow people to speak.
Okay.
We have a question. We have a question from Lynn Eichel.
Okay.
Hi, Lynn Eichel, registered nurse from Saskatoon. Would I be able to, or would all of us be able to get the names of the people that are on this steering committee?
Oh, yes, you can. Of course, I'm stumped right now, and we should have had that up. Let me just see. Jeanne's texting me to see if. Oh yes, okay. The people on the steering committee, they're. Can we maybe have? Would current SRNA be willing to send out that list on our behalf?
I don't have it, but yes.
Do you have the list?
No, we don't have the list.
Okay, because I'll certainly, Jeanne can certainly, send the list, and we can send it. We can have it sent out, because yes, that is important. I'm sorry, didn't even think to put that in, and I don't know why.
Maureen, it's Cindy.
Yep.
We don't have the list, and that's not something we would email all our members. We could look to see what another option would be. I mean, we're very careful with what we send our members, because we have to send a lot of information to them. So, but we could, if there are other opportunities, I'm looking at Tanya, what we could do in terms of sharing it.
Could I actually ask anybody who really is interested in the list, and I hope lots of people are, our email is nursing.sask@gmail.com.
We need a website.
Maureen, Sue Meyer says she has the list, and she's asking if you're okay if she speaks.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sue. That would be great. Thank you.
Okay.
So you should have the. Sorry,
I do
go
have
ahead.
the list. Tara, and I don't know if the last name's Schmellenberg. She's an NP. Monica New, she's an LPN. Courtney Dingo, she's a NP as well. Christo Chorus, RN. Justine Protz, RN. Maureen, NP. Kathy White, RPN. Myself, RPN, and Lisa Plank, NP. Oh, and there's one more. There's one more. Carol Lease, LPN, I believe.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, thank you so much, Sue. I probably could have said it, but I just was worried I'd miss one or two or something, and then, be bad. But anyway, I should have had that list here with me today. Anyway, so we do have representation from all the nursing family on the steering committee. Any other questions?
It's Lynn Eichel again. Just a follow-up from that other question is, my understanding is that you are salaried, and how much time are you spending with the direction of SNA?
I'm a contract like I have a contract with SNA, so not really salaried per se, but it's more a contract, and so it's hours, you know, that we put in, and we have deliverables that we are going to be providing to the steering committee. First of all, we haven't had a chance to get to that point yet. We've been negotiating with SRNA. Probably on average, Jeanne and I are putting in, it's going to be, more hours one week than another, but I'm going to guess we'll probably end up putting in at least 15 to 20 hours a week, possibly more, depending on kind of where we're at in the process. Does that answer your question, Lynn?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
I'm not seeing anyone raise their hand.
Okay. I want to thank everybody for taking the time to stay on the site, and so hearing our presentation. And we're certainly open to hearing from people and discussing things. And if you have any comments for us or feedback, as we go down this journey. Luckily, we do have, some other models within Canada that we can share problem solving with, and find out how they manage something, or whatever. So that's actually kind of nice that we have that ability. And this is going to be a process. It's not going to happen overnight. And there will be a lot of work ahead of us to get this up and running. And so I do thank the steering committee for volunteering their time and effort to move this forward, because it will take time and effort on their side as well. So I do thank them very much for that. There's no other questions or comments. We could close this down. If there's anybody, the other thing I could say as well, I guess, is that if there's anybody that would like to, know other organizations that would like to hear this same presentation, or, small groups that would like to hear the presentation, we'd be happy to try and accommodate you at this point in time, or in the future, if you would like to speak with this organization to put your thoughts forward. Again, the email is nursing.sask@gmail.com. And shall we call it a wrap then, folks?
Hi, just Lynn again, Maureen. Just with the contract, is there a specific length of time that the contract's in, like for a year or 2 years?
The contract is for 6 months at this point in time.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other comments?
There are no other hands raised.
Okay. All right. As I said, thank you so much for listening. Totally appreciate
there
the
is-
opportunity.
Maureen, there is one more now.
Okay.
Joanne Peterson.
Thank you, Maureen, for this great presentation. I had the privilege of attending some of those first meetings, and to see the growth to this point is phenomenal. I want to thank you all for your efforts. And this, you know, we could not be better served by the growth of this organization. So thank you very, very much. And I can't wait to get my membership.
Thank you, Joanne. You've been a great support. Love to chat with you anytime we can.
And one more.
Hi, Lisa Bolton here. I'm an RN in Saskatoon, and you'll have to forgive me because kids were coming home from school during some of your presentations, so I may have missed this. But I'm just wondering, right now we pay union dues and we pay registration fees. Is there going to be a third additional cost with the 3-pillar format now?
I will say that in other jurisdictions, yes, that is what happened. Yes.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. We haven't got to the point of being able to sort through how much or any of those deals yet. So, yeah.
There are no more raised hands.
So again, I would like to thank everybody and thank SRNA for the opportunity to do this presentation. It was our first opportunity to introduce ourselves to any kind of public, so this was quite exciting for us. And as I've mentioned, we'd be happy to do this again anytime. And yeah, we'll just have to see where this exciting opportunity takes us, and see how it plays out. Thank you.
So is it done? Are we off?
I'm assuming we're finished.